Today on the Meltdown, Dune Part 2 dominated the global box office this weekend. How well will it hold going into week number 2? And what other films made up the top 5? Swifties are excited about the Eras Tour coming to yet another screen near you. And is Justin Timberlake officially back? All of this along with Lunt's list, profiling the most disappointing movie sequels of the past 3 decades. This is the Meltdown, presented by MyBookie, broadcasting live from the Culver studio.
2 big boys on a tiny studio, teaching you and me about everything they know. It make it the Meltdown. It's the Meltdown. Come on, Tyler, it's the Meltdown. Coming for the Meltdown. Let's start the show.
I feel bad every time we make him perform that live. I do.
It hurts the head a little bit.
It's getting to a point where eventually
we'll get it recorded.
We're going to have to do a recorded version.
If only we had the capability in this place.
I know. Yes. So many microphones, so many recording devices, so little time. That is the problem here on the Meltdown. Thank you to all of you Meltdonians on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, everywhere you find us. We appreciate you being here with us. Especially there on our YouTube channel. Please subscribe if you have not yet already so you can catch all of the latest Meltdown content. We love being able to provide that for you. I'm Tim, that's John. We also have Rockstar and Tyler back with us again today. We appreciate our title sponsor, John, that is MyBookie.
MyBookie.ag is where you can go and play all kind of games, sports betting. Played a lot of hockey this weekend, played a little NBA, didn't do too hot there. Also played in the casino as well. They have incredible slot machines there you can play. They have a live casino you can play, blackjack, roulette, your favorite, all kind of games you can play, all at MyBookie.ag. Make sure to use promo code NEXTROUND when you make that first deposit at MyBookie.ag. You'll get a first deposit bonus when you use that, and you can bet anything, anytime, anywhere. Just go to mybookie.ag.
You want to talk about striking it rich? Dune Part 2, $81.5 million in its domestic debut. Part 2 is especially popular in IMAX and other premium large formats. They're called PLFs, if you ever hear us referring to that acronym, as they're known in the industry, contributing a massive 48% of the film's domestic tally would be those PLF formats there. This is going to be a situation where I'm going to have to give a lot of credit to John for Lunt's list, because I tasked you last week with coming up with how to improve the movie-going experience, and you had more special screens as being a big part of your pitch there, as they represented, with just IMAX alone, $18.5 million of ticket sales, 23% of the market share of Dune Part 2's domestic haul.
Because when you want to see a movie like this, or really any Marvel movie, Star Wars movie, Avatar, any of the big movies that come out, you want to see it on the biggest screen possible. Now, we only have one that we can go see it on here, because even Prime, is just how we saw it Thursday night, is not the biggest screen possible. It was the best, probably, overall experience. I don't even know if that's the case anymore. It started to kind of go downhill from where it was when they first built it. I would have loved to have had an audio jack next to me, because there are certain scenes that, like, your chair's shaking and you're really into it. It's like, I want this thing to literally blow my eardrums out with how epic this current scene is, or I want it to, make me blind from how awesome this big screen is. I mean, you want every aspect of it to just hit you over the head. And we don't really get that really from any theater we have here, because even our IMAX, the seats are uncomfortable. So that's all you're thinking about the entire time. So all the things I mentioned, I would love for that. This woman who sat next to me, not my wife, but on the other side, I kept hitting her purse because she put it up on the armrest between the two of us. So it's like, I'd love a little separation there. I mean, everything I mentioned would make it just that much better. The experience was incredible, but just that much better.
People showed up this weekend to support this film. It was an event. Demand to watch it on 70 millimeter, which is the director's format of choice, Denis Villeneuve, has been so high that some brave moviegoers have resorted to 3:15 a.m. showtimes in order to be able to achieve this feat. Would anyone here in this room enjoy a 3:15 a.m. movie if you didn't have to work the next day? Would that be an enjoyable thing to achieve that early in the morning?
Absolutely not.
No way.
I can't think you can tell me I could be the screener of the first person to see Dune 2 before everybody else at 3:15. I had to pass, dog. Thank you, though. Appreciate it, man.
You had a problem with falling asleep during the first one. I think
the wife had a problem falling asleep.
The wife had a problem falling asleep. Y'all had a problem getting through the first one.
Yeah, I thought it was all right. It was a lot of dialogue, but it wasn't bad. It's just that, but
it's world building.
But there's a movie that if I'm a highly anticipated movie, I want to see what they said the only time you can see it is 3:15 in the morning. I'd be like, all right, I'm going to pass. Thank you.
I think falling asleep during the 3:15 a.m. showing would be something that would be understandable for anyone who's in attendance.
Yeah.
Would that be something you'd check out a 3:15 a.m. showing?
Absolutely not. I have enough trouble just making it through the 9 o'clock showings and the 8:30 showings. No chance could I do a 3:15.
Only if it was like, hey, we'll show you Deadpool and Wolverine a couple weeks before it comes out, but you have to go at 3:15. Absolutely, I'm there. Anything else, there's probably a way to watch it that's not 3:15. So even, I can't get the 70 millimeter, but I got to go to normal time to go out and see it in a regular movie theater, I'd probably do that.
But these showings are selling out. I mean, there's people. These seats are being absolutely filled. But it is a crazy experience there to see it at that time of day. You have IMAX CEO Rich Gelfond saying, quote, "Our most iconic film locations are virtually sold out for weeks. This is an outstanding opening for a science fiction sequel," according to David A. Gross of movie consulting firm Franchise Entertainment Research, saying audiences are connecting with these human, vulnerable characters. The word of mouth around this thing, we've said it's going to be strong. It has been. It's generating even more buzz. I think it will have a great hold, especially since it's holding on to those premium formats going into yet another week. Really, the first film that's going to challenge the premium formats, it feels like, is Ghostbusters when it comes out. When does Ghostbusters come out, by the way?
I want to say end of the month, but yeah, it's going to have pretty much the whole month of May, I think.
Official release is March 22nd. It'll be out there, obviously, in early previews on the 21st.
So 3 weeks.
You've seen this movie twice, Dune Part 2. Have you seen it in a premium format yet, Tyler?
I'm not sure if I've seen it in a premium format. I've seen it with the heated recliners and all of that, but it was not in Prime. It was not IMAX.
Well, then no, I don't think you've seen it in a premium format yet.
All
Maybe
right.
that's the way you should watch it for a third time. Will you watch this movie a third time in theaters, or have you had your Dune fix yet?
I probably will go see it a third time before it leaves theaters. I might see it in IMAX, but like you guys said, the IMAX theater we have, it's not great. And then my other option for IMAX would be going to see it at the Dome at the Science Center, and I'm not sure how that would look either.
I would go see it in Prime. I'd go see it in Prime.
Prime, IMAX, just for the screen size and sound, probably be a little better. The biggest mistake, though, the theater Tyler went to go see it at, the Summit, it's the most recent updated theater we have here, but the biggest mistake is it's 16 screens, the biggest one we have. Didn't update a single one of them to make them a premium format. Prime, Dolby, IMAX, Big D, none of it. And huge mistake there, misstep, or else Tyler could have potentially seen it there.
Jim Dunaway says 3:15 a.m. is better than 3:15 p.m. for his viewing experience. Although I don't think Dune Part 2 would be a Jim Dunaway feature that he would accept and champion.
You mean Dune Part 3? 2?
That's what they're going to call the next one.
Yeah.
Well, so collectively in this room, how many times have you three collectively seen Dune?
I've seen it once, and it will only be once for me.
I've seen it once. I do want to see it again. I just didn't have a chance to this weekend, so I guess 4 total.
Wow, so 4 total, and I haven't seen it once. I've seen the
4 for 4 people. So
that's great.
Just claim one of Tyler's.
You haven't seen it, but you would agree everybody's talking about it, even for those who haven't seen it.
No. Like I would, if I didn't have a kid, I would have seen it by now. I think so. But
put that on the poster.
Yeah.
That would be good.
But I don't think they're hurting for my money right now. I think they're doing all right.
I think they're doing okay. Warner Brothers projected a $65 million start, though most box office analysts believe that revenues would hit around $80 million, hit $81.5. At the international box office, the sequel added $97 million for a global number of $178 million. The film cost $190 million to produce, roughly $100 million on top of that to promote, and I think they're getting their money's worth. Warner Brothers has to be happy about this, John.
Yes, and the biggest thing with me with this movie is financially, we talked about Denis Villeneuve's movies never crush it necessarily, but critically they're always very good. And movies like Arrival, nominated for a ton of Oscars. Blade Runner won. I think cinematography is the only one that won, but nominated for a handful of Oscars. It just makes me think, had this come out back in, I believe it was November, is when it was supposed to come out, what would this Oscar race look like? It would definitely be a 2-horse race, but I am curious.
Be careful now.
I am
what
curious
you're saying,
because Tim loves Oppenheimer. It was okay for me. I mean, it's still overall a top movie for me, but I mean, I would pick Dune 10 times out of 10 over Oppenheimer. And I feel like there's a lot of people out there, if there's another movie like this, because, well, no, here's the thing. Like, even Christopher Nolan's championing this movie. Like, this is a movie that goes along the same wavelengths as a Nolan movie would. His movies do, even though his are way more sci-fi than Nolan's typically are, even though Nolan obviously has done Interstellar and other stuff too. But like the Oscar race would be way more intriguing now as opposed to we all know Oppenheimer's going to win Best Picture, Nolan's going to win Best Director. They're going to win the male acting Oscars. But if Dune were there, where would it be? But then now that it's in March of this year, where will Dune be? It seems overall this is a slightly lesser year, even though the Oscar movies don't usually pop out till summer when it comes to like trailers and there's that A24 movie that can win all kind of awards. But I am curious where this will be. Financially, it's going to be successful, even though it's not like $1 billion movie. Critically, way successful for both fans and professional critics alike. When it comes to awards, I'm very curious to see where this movie is.
It feels like Denis Villeneuve has a reputation now of being a draw as a visionary director. This feels very much like revisionist history to me because I remember a week ago living in an era where, like you pointed out, Denis was not looked at as being this commercial success that he now is being championed as.
I still would not say he's overall a commercial success.
But he's being promoted as that now.
Well, here's the thing. I think this movie has done for the movie industry in this year where we've gone pretty long time of a drought with big movies, because even the holiday movies really weren't crazy. I mean, Aquaman didn't crush it. Wonka's not $1 billion movie. The Color Purple was more of an award thing than a moneymaker. But when we came back from COVID, the first movie I actually saw was New Mutants, but right after that was Tenet. And that was one of those movies that, like, hey, of all people, Christopher Nolan's going to put butts in the seats to get people back in the movie theater. Now, the movie ended up not being as good as, we expect Christopher Nolan to be. Overall, still liked it, but it's just not to Nolan's level. But I feel like the hype going into that, like, no, you have to go to the theater to see this movie. I'm not going to do a streaming deal with it. I want butts in the seats. That's the best way to experience a movie like that. And I would agree. Any Nolan movie is that way. But I'd say the same thing for Denis Villeneuve, that we've hit a lull for a pretty long period of time where box office has not been good. Mario, as a worldwide hit in kids movie, did good. And then the Barbenheimer movement did good with Barbie and Oppenheimer. Outside of that, you didn't get a ton of like crazy success. You only had 2 billion plus movies all year with Mario and Barbie. So this is like, hey, we're starting it back up again. It's like we've been in a lull. The movies haven't been good. Nobody's been going. The experience is bad. We're hitting a new movement now with this, and it's going to have almost a full month's run to really dig in and make decent money for him. But that's why he's being heralded as a box office success, because of the moment we're in right now, not, this is going to be a new Avatar or Endgame kind of movie.
You're a Denis guy. I'm a Nolan guy, but I think we can agree this tag team is good for theatrical distribution. This is the premier team that if anybody's going to get the job done and keeping the theatrical going experience alive, it's them too. Which is why, John, I think I have a solution to a lot of problems right here.
Do a movie together.
Let's get Nolan in charge of the future of James Bond like he wants. Let's go ahead and give him the keys to the kingdom and give him control to do it right. And let's put Denis Villeneuve in charge of Star Wars. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. Hand him the keys to the castle and let him cook, because he's proven that he can take that next step, and let him build his own trilogy. Let him build his own part of the universe that hasn't been explored, that is away from the Skywalker saga. Let him have his own slice of the cake. What do you think?
I'm not against it.
But you think it would be a step back for him, is what you're saying?
I don't know that it would be a step back for him. The problem is he can't be him under Disney, I believe.
But that's why I'm saying hand the keys over, which is why...
Oh, it'd be great if they did that with a lot of different things they've had in the past, but like...
You're an Alabama football fan.
Yes.
The most important decision that's been made in your lifetime for Alabama football is handing the keys over to Nick Saban and letting him run the program the way it needed to be run.
Correct.
No argument there, right?
Yeah.
We've got to see the same things happening in entertainment now.
You had to get there through a process of finally letting go, though, so I don't know when it'll finally be, and maybe that would be an answer. I don't think it'll happen. But I will say, switching from Dune to Star Wars, that's something I was about to say. It's like, but going from Dune to Star Wars, which takes a lot from Dune as well, it's like, is that really the thing to do? But they did the same thing with J.J. Abrams, who revived Star Trek, and then ended up going and doing Star Wars as well. Now, most people would say overall that was a failure, but a lot of that has to do with Disney as well, and the people behind the scenes having their hands in there and not making a good plan.
I don't think Denis Villeneuve minds being typecast as a sci-fi guy, the way some people are upset about being typecast as horror filmmakers or whatever it may be. I don't think he minds being typecast. And there is no more premier, more dominant series in the history of science fiction film than Star Wars. They need help getting back on track and creating goodwill with the audience. And Denny is looking for commercial support at a time in which he's been proven as that guy who has the skill set to get the job done. I think it's a match made in heaven. We should make it happen.
I have no problem with it personally. I just know how it ultimately will probably end up going. And so it's hard for me. I don't want him because, look, I love J.J. Abrams too, and I can go through his whole filmography. And so, look, everything he's touched, produced, directed, whatever, has been incredible. But now people go to the sequel trilogy and be like, oh, that was J.J. Abrams. Now, was it just him? No. Was it partly him? Sure. But I just don't want that for somebody like him. I wouldn't want that for somebody like Nolan. I mean, what if he goes and does a Bond film and people can't back off, the Broccolis can't back off or something, and it ends up being a train wreck? It's a possibility with both of those scenarios. You would hope they'd let him cook, but, in today's day and age, I just don't know.
Tyler, you've seen Wonka and you've seen Dune Part 2 multiple times. Is Timothée Chalamet the real deal? Because as much as we talk about Denny getting a bump from the success of Dune Part 2, Timothée Chalamet now is a true leading man.
Oh, yeah. I can only see Timothée Chalamet growing in popularity from here on out. Excuse me. Wonka was huge. I wasn't crazy about it. I'm more of a fan of the original with Gene Wilder.
Good man.
But still a good movie. And then Dune was incredible, and I think this will only propel him to be the next leading man.
If Timothée Chalamet had an ego and said, I'm not doing Dune 2, would that turn you off from seeing it? Would that turn you away that he's not going to be in the second one? He wanted more money. Is he bigger than the film?
If ultimately he wasn't in it, yes. I mean, if he did all that and complained and fussed, but then still
is he the reason people are going to see this? Is the main reason is because Timothée Chalamet is in it?
No, I mean he's a leading.
I understand he's an up and coming actor, but like, is he the reason? Like, something like it would not be him.
Originally, no,
correct,
and now yes. Like,
who's bigger, him or Zendaya in the movie?
Him.
Box office draw.
He's the main character, and ultimately as a box office draw, I'd say he's better. I would say critically, she's probably a little higher, but that's why you put them together and you have a magic formula.
He has range. And he's only going to get more work to show off that range.
So you're saying he'd be a good Spider-Man?
Don't start those rumors. Zendaya already has enough to deal with.
She already has one Spider-Man.
Let's see how the rest of the top 5 played out. You have Paramount's musical biopic, Bob Marley, One Love. Did you ever have any intention to see Bob Marley, One Love, being the music guy in which you are?
No, I've heard a lot of stuff that it feels like since his family had pics on, they said like everything it's so celebrated, it's just a little over the top. That's the only thing I've heard. It's just like it's almost like he was God. And I know a lot of Jamaicans, I mean, what he did for the country and everything, and what he for peace and everything, yes, but I think that they've kind of embellished a little bit too much. But I just have no interest. I don't think we should make a biopic for the fact of doing a biopic.
It's almost become, we've talked about the movement for holographic performances from deceased artists. And while we will get to that point where you're going to be able to go down the street and watch a performance from someone who's no longer here, and people are going to buy tickets to see those shows, they already are, we're seeing it play out in the theater run first. With things like Bohemian Rhapsody. We have an Amy Winehouse movie coming out. Would there be an Amy Winehouse movie if she was still alive? I don't think there would be. No. I think that they are, we had the Elvis movie that came out, obviously starring Austin Butler, who's also in Dune Part 2. These things are making big time money, and they're not going to stop, and they're going to try to figure out every possible act that has any type of following to make a movie about.
But you say that, but they did Rocket Man. Elton John's still with us.
That's true, but I'm not saying it. They're required to.
No, but I know they've done the Biggie Smalls, they've done the Tupac, all these movies, and it seems like it's just that's the next thing. It is the hologram thing, like Kiss, but Kiss is going to do the hologram thing too after they retire for the 5th time. That's coming.
If they actually retire.
It's all about keeping that money flowing. The film Bob Marley, One Love has become a box office success with $82.7 million in North America and $146 million globally. Hilary Swank's inspirational drama, Ordinary Angels, remained in 3rd place with $3.8 million from over 3,000 locations. The film's only made $12 million, but it also cost in the low double digits of millions, which could also help offset these lackluster grosses. We are seeing production budgets slashed across the board, trying to just make profitable movies. I think Jason Blum's the king of that.
Yeah.
And we're going to see if he's able to strike gold yet again with Imaginary that's opening up this week.
And I think studios like A24 or distribution platforms that now are getting into production, like A24, I mean, that's starting to get bigger. You see it cleans up the Oscars one year, and it's like everything that they're attached to. You know what? I'll go see that. Well, the movies they do only cost, $10 million to do or so. So it's going to make money. And Blumhouse, like you said, horror movies are the king of only costing. I mean, look at a movie like Skinamarink last year. As much as I hated it, it cost $15,000 to make. Literally $15,000 to make.
Blair Witch Project mentality.
And made, a couple million. So, I know, and some marketing hit probably more than that. But yeah, it's always fascinating. As much people always say, hey, there's no original stories out there anymore. The problem is there are these kind of movies. And I'm not saying Ordinary Angels. I know that's a movie that's probably not super wide release like some of these others, but like there's a lot of A24 movies. There's a lot of, independent films, neon movies, stuff like that get released, but you don't think of it because it doesn't have the insane marketing like Dune and all this stuff, all these other, I'm looking at the top, 10 right now, all that gets lost when a movie like Dune comes out. And it's like, well, I never see anything original. A lot came out. You just only heard about Dune.
One thing you have heard a lot about that you have not seen probably, that is in the number 4 spot, Madam Web. Unfortunately, Tyler and John both had to sit through that atrocity earlier this year. I tried to warn them it's going to be the worst movie of the year.
Honestly surprised it's number 4.
And I'm surprised it held as well as it did, but it's because Dune just took everything and the rest of the top 10 remained virtually the same. So they're at the number 4 spot. Madam Web, it had $3.2 million, still in over 3,100 theaters, as this Spider-Man sort of spinoff has Dakota Johnson there as a paramedic with psychic abilities. Cost $80 million to make. It has generated $40 million domestically, $50 million internationally to date. This thing is going to be one of the biggest bombs of the year, both commercially and critically.
Yes.
Faith-based TV series The Chosen rounded out the top 5 with $3.1 million from 2,215 venues. This is another interesting business idea of releasing a season of television through a series of episodes that end up equaling a feature-length runtime, but doing it in a theater. And these things are getting support. Do you like this idea, John?
I don't hate the idea because there's a lot of TV shows that think, whoa, what if we could watch the last season of Game of Thrones on the big screen or something? But it's one of the Fathom Events things, and I know a lot of those sometimes can cost a lot extra depending on what it is, that like the tickets are actually pretty expensive and you can't do it as part of A-list and stuff like that. Some you can. I don't know if this counts on there or not. I just know it's done by Fathom Events because I always see the trailers before every movie. But I mean, I don't know how much it costs to make. It seems like a decently big production, but I mean, if it works for you, it works for you. And it seems like it pops up in the top 5, top 10 every now and
then. So there's actually one out right now called for the Demon Slayer anime. They've broken it up into different arcs. So a few years ago, the Shibuya Train arc came out, and it dominated the box office in Japan, and it made a good chunk of money over here. And then it was re-released as a season, and they're doing the same thing again with the Hashira training arc right now.
Shibuya, roll call.
I'll be honest, you could have made that whole thing up, and I wouldn't know to fact check you because it was so compellingly delivered. But yeah, Rockstar's on board with that as well.
I told him that before we came in here, and he took everything out of my mouth. Shibuya.
Hey, it was number 7 this weekend, so the
Shibuya
still top 10.
The Meltdown's not supposed to be that nerdy. Okay, Tyler, we're not supposed to be getting into that type of territory. Okay, we still have a little bit of a reputation to uphold. But prior to this weekend, domestic box office revenues were 20% behind the same period in 2023. But after the arrival of Dune 2, that gap shrinking, according to Variety, to 13.5%. So still behind a year ago. But Dune 2, I think, is going to have tremendous legs behind it, John. And there's going to be a lot of people seeing it in week 2 because they maybe couldn't even get in during week 1 because you've got to have these tickets purchased long in advance.
You do. I was looking. I got an email. So when we all went out to the Rose Bowl, I went to go see Aquaman at the Chinese Theater just because it was what was playing on the IMAX screen there. I'd seen Joker there before. Saw that opening weekend. It was a crazy event and everything. Saw Aquaman a little late, so there wasn't much of an event. But I always get emails from the Chinese Theater. Now it's just the one right there, kind of where Kimmel's studio, is right there in the heart of Hollywood. And I got an email that said, hey, get your tickets coming into this weekend. I'm sure it was sold out, and the few screenings I looked at were sold out, but they did a lot of those, like basically 24 hours. They're showing it there, and they gave everybody a strip of the 70 millimeter film. They basically got 2 rolls, one to actually play and one to cut out the strip, and you got like a framed strip of the 70 millimeter film of Dune. I'm talking about the physical things that you could get. But because of that, it was an incredibly hard ticket to get. They didn't do it every movie. They did it like the primetime movies, basically. And it was an incredibly hard ticket to get. Every time I looked, it was completely sold out, just to kind of get a feel for what it's like out there. Here, I'm sure it's different. In Birmingham, you probably can get a ticket to any theater because it's not going to be completely sold out. Ours wasn't completely sold out. It was pretty close for that opening night prime. But I imagine a lot of people are now with the word of mouth are like, hey, not only do I have to go watch it, but if I saw it in a bad format, like Tyler, hey, go see it in IMAX, go see it in Prime. Maybe I should step out and actually see it in one of those premium formats because nothing's really coming out this weekend.
Speaking of word of mouth, Jim Dunaway has been in our chat this entire time. One thing that he likes to share with all of his viewers, all of his fans, is his journey that he's had with Way to Wellness. John, you're on that journey right now.
I am. Go to aplanforme.com. That's where I went. That's where Jim went. That's where my dad went. A lot of people in my life are using it. And look, it's working incredible for them. I'm over 40 pounds lost now on the program. I've only been doing it for a little over 5 weeks. And it's already made an incredible change. And I know I'm just going to keep going from there. So Leslie and her team, they've done a great job putting me on the right track, kind of keeping me on the right track as well, developing a plan that works for me. Tim is about to come jump on as well, and they're going to develop a completely different plan for him because Tim and I are two different people. Even though we're in the same place a lot of times, we're two different people with two very different movie mindsets. But, go to aplanforme.com. Just give them a call. Go visit. Get that consultation. See what they say for you. See if the program can work for you. It's worked for me. It's worked for Jim. It's worked for my dad. It could work for you. Aplanforme.com.
There you have it. Dune Part 2 provided the largest domestic opening the box office has seen since last October's Taylor Swift concert film, The Eras Tour. The Eras Tour making headlines yet again as Maroon has been confirmed as one of the 4 bonus acoustic songs included in the Disney Plus version of Taylor Swift, The Eras Tour. John, you saw The Eras Tour in theaters. It ranked somewhere towards the upper end of best movies you saw this year. Really, I guess about the, the 25 spot or something like that.
I'll tell you exactly where it was.
60 that you had seen. So are you excited to watch the Eras Tour when it lands on Disney Plus in mid-March?
It was 31 of 61. So it was right there middle of the pack. Look, it was a good experience in person. It was kind of cool to see it from the other side because when you're in person, we had floor seats, but it's like looking up the whole time. And it's actually kind of a pain to actually enjoy a concert that way. I don't get having floor seats. But I may. But the truth is, I'll probably walk in one day and my wife is watching it, and I'll sit there and watch some of it because she'll definitely pull it up and watch it. But, yeah, I mean, it was cool to see once, but I have no desire to, go to the theater or to actually sit down and watch the whole 3-hour thing again.
There's a new trailer out for the Eras Tour on Disney Plus. It dropped today. The first few notes of Maroon can be heard, revealing that the track is one of the surprise acoustic songs included in the concert film streaming edition. I'm not a Swiftie. My daughter is becoming a Swiftie. Is Maroon a very popular song? Is this a song that people love, or is it just right up there with all the rest of them?
It's not one that I would be clamoring to go hear. There were a lot of songs she left out, but that's because she has 2 special songs every single show that she does, and it's different every time. That's just the crazy catalog she has because I think it was 44 songs to begin with that she does every time, and plus the 2 special makes 46. I know. We've talked about how crazy of a concert it is, but to do it as much as she's doing it, and I don't even think she's actually hit the halfway point or she's getting close to it on her international part now. It's crazy to see.
Is there anything comparable to what we've seen with the Eras Tour, or is it really a once-in-a-lifetime sort of event, in your opinion,
This
Rockstar?
is insanity. No, I can't think of anything that is comparable to this. The demand in every country.
What about the hate that comes along with it? Because there's so many people that are just absolutely
I don't know.
spiteful over all of this.
I'm not a huge Taylor Swift fan, but I respect the hell of what the hell she does. She's actually dating an NFL player.
Oh, I have not heard about
We
this.
don't talk about that today.
Is this someone popular?
We don't have to, I don't want to get into it.
Okay.
But
I've heard in the next round it's fake.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
But it's incredible to me of what she has built and doing this. What is it? It's every weekend she's pretty much doing the tour.
Pretty much, yeah.
I love that model more than doing every night, going on tour for 2 months, but also stretch this out for 2 years. But to have ticket sales like this, I'm trying to think of who would be behind her in the past decade. It's the most demanding show, ticket-wise, globally. And
I can just tell you, looking at the highest grossing tours of all time, because we brought this up on the next round one day, because Elton John did his last show not too long ago. He had the highest grossing tour. It was 330 shows over 5 years. I think it was kind of spread out a little bit in there. But his was the highest grossing tour at $939 million is what it made. Taylor Swift threw 60 shows of 152 I think she's a little further past that, but from what they've actually been able to basically get the box office for, through 60 shows, she's already passed him at $1.04 billion. And that's basically a third of the way through.
But you don't.
So this tour's going to get close to $3 billion when nobody had even crossed $1 billion ever before. And the average gross per show is $17.3 million. The next highest was Beyonce, who also, her tour was last year at $10.3 billion. Behind that, the highest was the Rolling Stones No Filter Tour 2017 to 2021 at $9.4 billion, or not 9.4 million, but that's half. The Rolling Stones at half of what Taylor Swift did per show.
But it's also a thing where people, celebrities, it's like a thing to have a picture of a celebrity at the, Eddie Vedder of all people, because his daughters are Swiftie, but him having floors, like their seats looked awful compared to his celebrity status. And like that they're not just gimmies. And it's just like, you see Brad Pitt, these people, like, you don't see that at the Elton John thing where it's like, I have to brag that I'm at the Elton John show right now in his final tour. But the Taylor Swift thing, and she's nowhere near being finished with her career. That's what's insane. This isn't a farewell thing.
And this thing continues to generate so much money. It was first announced in February that Disney Plus would exclusively stream the box office hit, with reports that they paid over $75 million for those rights. We're going to end up seeing the Eras Tour pulling in even more money after its box office haul of $261.7 million at the global box office after it released there on October 13th, becoming the highest grossing concert film to date. It has been out streaming for purchase, but this is going to be a different version of that show. They just keep putting out different versions of this show.
It's all about those 2 songs, those 2 extra songs you get each time.
To where you gotta collect them all here. Speaking of music, you may remember NSYNC announced their reunion just last year while on stage at the MTV VMAs, where they presented the award for Best Pop Album to Taylor Swift for Anti-Hero. Well, now you are going to see them making headlines yet again, as Justin Timberlake has recruited a slate of collaborators for his new album, Everything I Thought It Was. And one of those collaborators, that is the group NSYNC. His bandmates there, as he teased their involvement in his first solo album in 5 years on TikTok last week after a fan caught the band name on the track list while Timberlake was previewing the set's deluxe vinyl edition. I'm sure that just happened by mistake. Yeah. I'm sure it was just a good fan being a sleuth there. But NSYNC is featured on a single called Paradise, which is the band's second single of the decade following Better Place, which was featured on the Trolls Band Together soundtrack. Are you excited about NSYNC coming back yet again with this collaboration? Because I know that your wife is very excited about this.
Yeah, my wife is thrilled. She was thrilled about the Trolls song, and then we never actually saw the movie.
The other 4 NSYNC guys are pumped.
Yeah. Look, Selfish is actually a good track off his new album. I don't know if you've listened to it or not. He released another one, I think, called Drown. I don't know if I've listened to it yet or not. But, I mean, I like JT's solo stuff decently enough. I like when he collaborates with people. When he did the Chris Stapleton thing, that was big. But, we'll see if NSYNC still has it like they did back in the day.
So the Eras Tour releases on Disney Plus on March 14th. And then you have this album set for release on March 15th.
I'm going to be out both those days then.
It's got a track opening up with the album here called Memphis to show respect for his hometown. It's got 18 tracks, including that first single, Selfish, which you named there. News of this return has some collaborators reaching out, like producer Timberlake, who says, quote, "This is fun, Justin. It's like future sex love sounds, but nothing too heavy, just giving you what you'd expect from us, not overthought. The lyrics are not so deep. It's bob your head, dance to it music. Music is a young sport, and you have to keep it fun and young." Did you get that, Rockstar? Fun and young.
It's not overthought, not deep.
Not overthought, it's not deep.
This is just bubblegum.
Move. We've seen a lot in life, but you can't overthink it. Because of that, you have to bring out the 13-year-old and the 18-year-old again. If not, you can get into that old fogey stage real quick. That's the world we live in. So this is Justin Timberlake trying to bring in maybe kids that have not sampled his music other than from Trolls movies before. And will he be successful at that? That's what we'll see. Man of the Woods was not a success. It was a big setback for him.
Ultimately, I'd say his solo career has been a success just from the music side. Obviously, acting, everything, has done a bunch. But, I mean, will this one be a success? I think it'll be okay. And the NSYNC bump will get the people our age, especially the girls our age, really into it. But, I mean, I'm not, like, losing my mind. He put out a good single. It's like, yeah, it's a good song. Like, Selfish was good, but his other one came out. I don't even think I've listened to it yet because I don't really care that much.
I should have saved this story for Laurel's next appearance on the Meltdown. That's what I should have done. Timberlake's Return to the spotlight includes his Forget Tomorrow tour, which begins on April 29th in Vancouver. His first solo album releasing once again in the past 5 years. When I think of being in sync, Rockstar,
Here we go.
I think of the staff at Alabama Dental Associates.
Yes.
They're all in sync. They work closely together as a team led by Dr. Brian and Dr. Jeff, utilizing specialized training necessary to prevent, diagnose, and treat whatever your dental condition may be. They stay current on the advances in research treatment, so you know you're receiving the most advanced dental care possible. I had fallen off the wagon with regular checkups, and Alabama Dental Associates has me back on track. Feeling healthier about my dental health than ever before, no matter how long you've put it off. Call to make an appointment today at 205-956-8977. That's 956-8977, or visit alabamadental.com. They look forward to seeing you. It's now time for Luntz's List. Dune 2 has been a smash hit critically, commercially, and here with John Lunsford. So what are John's 5 most disappointing movie sequels since 1990? It's time now, Rockstar, to get to the list.
What is this? What is this? Luntz's List. What is this? Oh, what is this? What is this? Luntz's List. Luntz's List. Oh, Luntz's List of 5. Luntz's List of 5. Wow, Luntz's List of 5. Luntz's List of 5.
John, what was the mindset going into Luntz's List this time around?
All right, so you laid a few ground rules. Sometimes you'll do this with this list. It actually makes it easier when you lay the ground rules out, so I don't mess anything up. So I can include sequels of sequels. So, I'd say from a film like, Harry Potter, let's say. So I loved all those movies, so that's not going to make it. But like Harry Potter 1, 2 through 7 could qualify for this list technically. Each spot must be a different film series. There were actually a few that I hit multiple within a series, and I kind of had to choose, well, which one of these was actually more disappointing? These are also not worse. There are a lot of movies that are considered bad, but like, hey, it's a guilty pleasure for me because I like the franchise, or something that would probably pop up on a lot of lists, but it wasn't disappointing for me. Or it was like, well, I didn't expect much from it to begin with, so it wasn't super disappointing just because it was bad. And then counting box office isn't necessarily the way to go. Obviously, that can affect the overall opinion of a movie if it has a really bad box office. But the bad thing with this is I started looking through a few lists and started thinking about, what about this movie? What about this movie? Is there's a lot of sequels out there that people say are bad because they were, technically a sequel, but it was a straight to DVD thing that you never really saw. Or for me, the biggest one is horror movies. I've seen Jaws a million times, and I've never seen a single sequel to it because Jaws itself was like a moment, and it's one of the things you have to watch, but I don't ever care to see Jaws 2 through however many there were. Halloween, same thing. Seen the original Halloween a bunch of times. I'm never going to watch another Halloween movie.
The Jaws sequels are a sore spot for me because while I will defend Jaws 2 as being very watchable, Jaws 3 is very painful for me, and Jaws 4 is maybe the worst movie ever made if you look at the finer details of that.
You didn't see Madam Web.
You didn't see Jaws 4.
Which I guess could Madam Web be considered a sequel to like Venom and Morbius? They're the same universe? Anyway.
Just imagine the powers that Madam Web had, but the shark had them. That's the way I would describe Jaws 4, The Revenge.
Run around blind, I see the future.
Jaws The Revenge, the shark's like, it's like premeditated.
Oh, yeah.
He's hunting down the whole family.
Yeah. And it's like, well, why don't they just fly away to a Caribbean island and get away from the shark? They do, and the shark beats them there somehow. And the shark has made... I believe the poster said this time it's personal. I believe it said that. And I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, and this isn't even the same shark from the first one. Let's not get into Jaws 4.
How do you know it's personal?
Let's go to number 5 on Luntz's list to get this thing started. These are the most disappointing movie sequels since 1990. Anything pre-1990 that would be a disappointing sequel for you guys? Anything pre-1990 do you want to throw out there?
Caddyshack 2 was pre-1990.
Oh, yeah.
There was a bunch. Oh, God.
Oh, number 5.
I have not seen one of these.
Fast X.
So...
You should know John Lunsford is a huge Fast and the Furious fan.
Huge Fast and Furious
Well, he's
fan.
human. So.
Was this the go-to Fast and the Furious movie that you had to pick, or was it in contention with something else?
For me, this was the go-to because this is the most recent one that just came out, I guess, last year. And, all right, so the Fast and Furious saga. Here's a quick history. I've already gone through a whole history on the next round. I can tell you I liked when I did that. But 1 through 7 was when Paul Walker was alive. 7 was the one where Paul Walker died. They finished the movie. Had an incredible send-off. Man tears all over the place as See You Again's playing in the background.
It's been a long with you, my friend. Okay, sorry. I was trying to set the scene.
That didn't mean sing it, but anyway, you know the song I'm talking about. Perfect ending to the franchise. They could have just stopped right there and not a single person would have complained, except the people who actually make the money from it, because they wanted to, milk that cash cow as much as they possibly could. And the Fast and Furious movies, no matter what you think, they make money. So we're going to keep going with it. They went with it without Paul Walker. By the way, Paul Walker's still alive in this series. He still is technically alive in this series, even after Fast X, but he's just not there, obviously. But they've done a terrible job trying to figure out that whole story because, hey, there's some stuff going down, and we got to get you to come help us heist this whatever is going on. So we're going to get your wife to come. You stay home with the kids. You're the one that's been doing this the whole time, but we're going to randomly throw your wife in, which is Vin Diesel's sister, and it's a whole thing. But
can you tell this has personally afflicted John in a way to where he's lost for words?
Fast X is just too unbelievable.
Sure.
Okay. Finally got to that point where even John's like, no thanks.
So you bet, like, Too Fast, Too Furious wasn't great. It was Paul Walker, and it was the introduction of Tyrese and Ludacris to the series. Vin Diesel was not in. It's the only one he's not in.
Luda.
But then the third one was like, hey, we'll do Tokyo Drift. Actually wasn't that bad of a movie. It fits in the story. They've done a good job narratively fitting it all in up to 7. Then with the eighth one, we've had the same villain, the same kind of background villain for the last 3. It's been Charlize Theron's character, Cypher. And it was fine in the 8th one. They should have killed her off and moved on to another one like they do with most of them. She was in the 9th one. She's still in the 10th one somehow. Jason Momoa is now the bad guy, which he's okay. But the problem is they left it on a cliffhanger. And I don't want to spoil it. But they left it on a really weird cliffhanger that I'll tell y'all off because I know none of y'all are ever going to watch it, of why it made the list. But then they added Brie Larson, surprisingly, as a relative that you've never seen before. They did the same with John Cena in the last movie. Hey, John Cena's Vin Diesel's brother. You never knew that until now. He's done all this stuff through the last 20 years, and you've never heard of him. They're trying too hard now with all of this. They left it on a terrible cliffhanger going into what's supposed to be part 2. They said they're going to do 3 parts, but then Vin Diesel got hit with a sexual assault scandal to where I don't know if they'll ever make another one now. So it left on this awful cliffhanger, and that's basically where the series is going to end.
Wow.
Because they can't do another one now because it's
can't
touch him now.
This is only number 5 on his pain scale. This is number 5, 1 being the most painful.
Only reason it's number 5 is because it's not like 1 through 9 were great. I like 1 through 7, and then 8 was like, and then 9 was a little and then this is one that's really like bad that it's kind of been going downhill, so I've kind of expected it.
I'm wondering how many movies he chose just because the title was easy to write, and I wonder if we're going to see that over and over and over again.
My number 1 is not super easy to write.
Let's go with number 4 on Luntz's list as John continues to tell us about those 5 most disappointing movie sequels since the year 1990. So for the past 33, 34 years, basically. All right. Number 4.
World War 84.
World War 80. Oh, Wonder Woman 1984.
Oh, okay.
That's how they marketed it, so I feel like I can write it.
That's fair, but it took us a second to like. And I went with Rocky. I trusted him. That was the worst part of it. I'm just like, oh, Rocky knows what he's talking about.
A lot of World Wars. A lot of them.
Wonder Woman 1984. This was a movie that I saw on HBO Max because it was one of those that was day and day released. And
I actually did too.
Patty Jenkins had so much success with the first Wonder Woman. Patty Jenkins was behind this one as well, right?
I think so, yes.
I have to look that up. But.
So here's the thing. The first Wonder Woman is considered by most to be one of the best, if not the best, DCEU film, at least of a solo film.
It's a high mountain, isn't it?
I know it's not real high there, but I would probably consider it third for me overall in the DCEU, but still probably one of the few. I'd probably stop there of giving it positive grades. But then you had Pedro Pascal, who at the time was starting his ascension. He wasn't where he is now, but he was starting his ascension.
It was good, but it could be better.
Yeah.
How was that?
Terrible villain.
Okay.
He's not a very good villain. He's a great face, not a good heel. The 80s vibe, the whole vibe of like the trailer and everything, as much as we love the Midnight, which is the whole 80s vibe, it's like, I'm in. Let's do it. This is going to be perfect. And it was terrible. Kristen Wiig was not good as one of the villains.
Cheetah.
The way they brought Chris Pine back was incredibly stupid. Everything about it was just a bad movie. It was horribly done. It's like everything you liked, we're just going to go and throw it in the toilet. And then there's a new movie, Wonder Woman 84.
I mean, it stalled out Wonder Woman altogether, really.
Yeah, which is one of the few things the DCU had going for it. And, oh, by the way, you killed one of the things you just had going for you. It's done. End of story. It was so disappointing.
I don't know what else needs to be said.
Yes.
Didn't it come out Christmas Day? I remember it coming out on a Christmas Day release.
Sure.
Let me see here.
It was definitely a December release.
December 25th, 2020.
There you go.
That's when it released, and the director on it, Patty Jenkins. Hurt her stock too.
Who had a Star Wars movie in the works and I think does not anymore.
Yeah.
There are a lot that's happened to a lot of people.
But I think it would have been looked at even more harshly had it not been a straight to streaming release. Because most people will be like, okay, I'm going to stream this. Oh, it wasn't very good. Okay, whatever. But when you pay money for the babysitter, when you go out and you buy all the concessions and you sit down, you have a different level of expectation of this thing better deliver. And it actually benefited, I think, from not having that certain level of hype around it.
Probably so.
All right, let's go to number 3 on Luntz's list. Once again, Wonder Woman 1984 made $170 million, cost $200 million to make. That's not even including how much it took to market the film. So not a success there in Wonder Woman 1984. Number 3, Rise of
Skywalker.
I am surprised that you put this on there, and I am proud of you for doing it. But I remember calling you after seeing this film, and you were you weren't upset about it. You were very much like, they made some choices. They did some things. It's over. We can move on.
Now, once again, this is not a list of 5 films I hate, 5 sequels I hate. This is films that are disappointing.
I hate this movie.
I don't hate Rise of Skywalker like most people do. However, there were pieces there with Force Awakens and even The Last Jedi that didn't pay off. The whole thing was a train wreck, and it's hurt Star Wars overall. That's why it's disappointing more than anything, is that it hurt the overall opinion of Star Wars in general to everybody, because now anything that Disney does with Star Wars, everybody immediately goes in with, well, I don't know if this is going to be any good, but yeah, we'll try it. Even a show like Andor, huge praise, but you go in like, I don't know, we'll see. Mandalorian, huge praise, I don't know. You go into it kind of with that, I don't really know, because it's a Disney version of Star Wars. And overall, it was just a disappointing film. It didn't do what Disney should do, because Disney, by the way, at the same time, is ending the Infinity Saga, which is one of the greatest, stretches of movies ever and the highest grossing franchise ever. And then they fumble the ball with Rise of Skywalker. One
of the greatest movie announcements of all time was Rise of Skywalker, because they announced it with Palpatine coming out to make the announcement. And
I love the trailer for it too. The music in the trailer was incredible.
Play it again. I remember that happening. Was it D23 that happened?
I think so.
And people were losing their minds over it. They thought, okay, Star Wars is going to get back on track. You had Lando in there. I mean, it was supposed to be a return to form. You were bringing back J.J. Abrams, and all it was an apology letter to everyone that hated Episode 8, while also creating new haters. And they never explain. You bring back Palpatine from, if you remember in Return of the Jedi, the Death Star blows up after he's thrown down into a vat of death anyway. And they bring him back, and they just never he came back. They just never thought, we need to probably get into how this guy showed back up. He's back, and you need to know he's back, and that's it. Well, I mean, if you read the novel, Tim, you'll understand. I don't want to have to read the novel. I'm going to see the movie. Explain to me how Palpatine has come back from this and why he would face any challengers after what happened to him at Return of the Jedi. I hate this movie. I'm very angry with this movie. This movie questions the intelligence of everyone. And if we're looking at an era of Dune right now where it's rewarding intelligence, Rise of Skywalker absolutely made you dumber for having seen it. And I despise this movie. John, this is Luntz's list, not Tim's list, but this was Tim's rant.
I'm sad this isn't number one now.
Y'all talking about giving the keys. They should just give the keys to Star Wars to Vin Diesel.
You got half of that right. They should give the keys to someone, but not to Vin Diesel, I don't think.
Okay.
One of their names starts, it's DV, not VD. Yeah, okay.
Anything
Wow, that was
else on
a lot. That was a lot.
Go to number 2 on Luntz's list.
All right. Should have put that number 1. It's going to be disappointing now.
I hate Rise of Skywalker, but I'll tell you this. I love Realtor Jim Wilson. I do. And I love when people are dedicated to what they do. That's Realtor Jim Wilson for you. He's all in for his clients and the real estate moves that they wish to make. When buying or selling a home, remember our friend Jim Wilson. With Location Real Estate, Jim prioritizes honesty and transparency with all of his clients. He's still active in the U.S. military. He wants the absolute best for you. Jim Wilson cares about you not only during the home buying or selling process, but every day after, he's an advocate for you. Contact Realtor Jim Wilson with Location Real Estate at 205-329-4758. That's 329-4758, or visit jimwilson.locationre.com. That is location with a K. All right, John, number 2, Zoolander 2. Okay.
Zoolander, when it came out, was a moment.
Correct.
It was a hysterical movie.
Yeah.
It had a really good cast in it. And it's one of those that I'd put in there when you think back to like, hey, what funny movies I've seen in the theater that were kind of an experience like a Dodgeball was or an Anchorman was.
Napoleon Dynamite.
I'd throw Zoolander in there too. Will Ferrell in Zoolander as well. But then it's like, hey, that was pretty good. It's been a while. We need another hit. Let's go get all the same people and let's get a ton of celebrities. And they spent the whole time chasing celebrities around and then found nothing for them to do whatsoever. Brought them in. None of it worked. It jumped the shark in a lot of different ways. That it was one of the of movies I hate. This is one of the single worst movies I've ever seen in my life. And it was so disappointing because I really did like the first one. I thought it was hysterical. And it just, fell absolutely flat on its face.
I've never seen Zoolander 2, so
I've seen Zoolander. From the trailer, I was like, this is not going to be good. And they waited like, 20 years after the original? Yeah. Like, it's just too much time had passed. Just like when they brought back Bill and Ted. I mean, come on.
Comedy sequels with that big of a time gap typically don't pay off.
People age a little bit, and it's hard to show.
It's hard to bring the band back together.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wild Stallions.
I'm just surprised Zoolander 2 is ranked
That was a little
2.
disappointing too, by the way.
Oh, I had no interest in that either. It's just sad. I didn't want to see.
I did only because
Keanu Reeves couldn't do the Ted voice anymore.
It was one of those HBO Max day-and-day releases or whatever, and so I watched it. It was very disappointing. Not bad enough to make the list, but it was disappointing.
Zoolander 2 is up there because you were going in with more expectation than these other films?
Yeah, because I really, really did like the first one. I mean, I thought it was really funny, and I thought it worked well. The cast worked well together. But it's like every weird thing about Zoolander and all the funny little clips you all say, the Derek Zoolander School for Kids That Can't Read Good, stuff like that. It's like, how can we take that and make it 10 times worse and more obscene and throw 5 celebrities in there to have some part of it? I mean, it has a billion people in it, but it just makes absolutely no sense.
I should know this. Is it Blue Steel, which is the look? Can we all give our best Blue Steel right now? I'm going to do mine first.
Oh.
I don't think I can beat that.
It's like you're eating a warhead.
Tyler, give me some Blue Steel back there. Okay. All right. A little bit more.
I don't want to do this.
Good. Okay, we won't do this anymore.
Uncomfortable.
That was more disappointing than Zoolander 2 somehow. All right. Number 1 on Luntz's list. I'm ready to get to it. I wish I had had 5 minutes prepared on Zoolander 2, but unfortunately I do not. I'm surprised that made the list, especially in the 2 spot. The most disappointing movie sequel since 1990, according to John Lunsford, is number 1 on Luntz's list. I cannot see a thing. Can anyone see anything? Spoil it for me. I hope it's
the greatest 90s movie of all time, Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
Is that really what's being written up there?
Yes.
I'm surprised that Lunsford went with this.
I think so.
Okay. We're going to trust your writing here. Mortal Kombat Annihilation. I would have never in a million years guessed that this would have been the movie you chose specifically.
Johnny K.
How did this make number 1 on Luntz's list?
All right, I'll be honest. It's been a hot minute since I've watched this because it was so bad. But so Mortal Kombat was a moment as well of in our childhoods, 1, 2, and 3, especially 3, being such a good game that everybody played. You had to have it for your console. You played it at every arcade. And then the first movie comes out. And I like the first movie. Okay, it kind of brought it down. Here's the thing. I don't like, and I'm sure we'll have this discussion a lot when it comes to movies. I'm not a big fan of violence in general. And Mortal Kombat's a very violent game, but cartoony back in the day to where it's like, okay, it's not as bad as it is now. You see some of the fatalities nowadays, and it's a little rough. But, and I haven't seen the new one because I know the new one's going to be like over the top, like gory, and I just don't want to watch it. But the first one that came out was like, it's not that bad when it comes to violence. It tones that down. It just tells more of the story that you don't really get a lot of if you're just playing, hey, I want to be Scorpion versus Sub-Zero. And then it's like, okay, the first one worked out pretty good. Let's make Annihilation. It's worse than a fan-made movie would ever be. The CGI in it is absolutely abysmal because I think it was 97, and it's like every movie from the late 90s, early 2000s, and I would throw the prequels in there as well for Star Wars. It's like we have the capability to technically do it, so we might as well try. and it is absolutely awful. Every little bit of it, I was pulling scenes up watching how bad it actually is. The green screen, you can see like certain parts of hair get lost in the green screen on every time a person gets punched in the face or something. Like the morphing of Reptile in it is the worst thing I've ever seen. It is so incredibly bad. And what makes it even worse is that not long after that, you start getting actual fan-made films that are infinitely better than a big budget movie was. I mean, Mortal Kombat Legacy, which was a YouTube series that came out, was incredible. And you see, that's what just, some fans did on YouTube, basically. And the actual studios can't get it right. I'm sure the new one's great. I don't want to touch it because A, I know it's probably too violent for me. And B, the last movie I saw was so bad, I can't jump into it. I know it's different. Just not my thing. I'm not buying into it. Mortal Kombat Annihilation, the absolute worst sequel ever.
Tyler, you're backing John up fully here.
100%. Annihilation is unwatchable. So here's one thing that they do in the movie. I have no idea why it's in there. To travel around the center of the earth, they have this like wooden ball that two people can ride in, and it's powered by the inside winds of the earth or something like that.
I'll take your word for it.
It is so dumb. It's not in any of the games before the making of that movie, nor since. I don't know why it's in there. And also, John's right about Reptile. The CGI for Reptile looks like, have you seen the Eiffel 65 video, Blue Dabba D?
You got John.
Yeah, I know
Broke
exactly
John
what you're talking
Lunsford.
about.
It is that quality CGI the whole way.
And the problem is, so like the original roster from Mortal Kombat's not that big, and then as games go, it grows. So it's like every possible character we can, because I think it tried to go off the roster from Mortal Kombat 3. Every single possible character we can throw in there, we're going to throw in there, whether it works or not. Hey, you want Reptile in there? Let's throw him in there. Hey, you want Sindel in there? Let's throw her in there. Hey, you want Motaro in there? Let's throw him in there. Absolutely awful. The guy that plays, I think it's Motaro. I pulled a clip up. He looks so freaking nerdy to be like this big dude. It's awful. It's the worst cast. It's everything about it's terrible. It's awful. It's awful, awful, awful.
Also, they recast, I think, 3 or 4 of the main characters between the original Mortal Kombat and Mortal Kombat Annihilation. So.
I know Raiden's different because he's like the ringleader of everybody. It's a completely different person.
Just to be clear, for this list, the sequels and the worst sequels, the original has to be good.
I like the original okay. As a kid watching it was like 95. I was 8.
These movies were never good. Even the one that was the day-and-day release on HBO Max, the latest Mortal Kombat movie that came out, I did not enjoy. It was not very good. Can I throw one out that maybe me and you can bond over? I think
Please.
John will too.
Street Fighter.
Alien Covenant. Because Prometheus laid the groundwork.
It's one of those I just didn't want to see
Prometheus
because
was very underrated. I loved Prometheus.
I do too.
I did too.
And then Covenant, I was so excited about Covenant. I didn't like Danny McBride's character. I didn't like anything about Covenant. I was like, I left.
Dumb.
It was terrible. Terrible movie.
Like what made
like
Prometheus work
Fassbender,
for
all that
me
stuff.
was it got away from being. I mean, it has plenty of horror elements to it, but it's more of just like a good alien movie. Like, and I don't mean alien. Like the franchise, just a good like
Sci-fi stuck in space.
Yeah.
Things are going bad. Oh my gosh, what's going on?
Works great. And then it's
it's
like
worked out one of the most uncomfortable scenes in movie history
Yeah.
with her having to cut out.
My wife brings it up as a thing. She can't watch it. It doesn't bother me like a lot of the violent stuff does.
She had to staple her stomach too.
But she did. But like
That's tough.
then I see Alien come. I didn't want to go see it because I could tell. Number one, they're trying to return to horror because it's like that's too sci-fi. We just need to get back to straight horror. So I didn't want to go watch it for that. But then when I see Danny McBride on Eastbound and Down and Righteous Gemstones and anything funny he does, incredible. Danny McBride in horror, I don't know because I didn't go see the new Halloweens and I'm not going to go see the new Halloweens to see if he's a good writer for it or whatever he did.
Newsflash, he's not.
The minute I see him pop up in Alien Covenant, it's like I don't care if he's playing a straight person or not, whether he's trying to be funny or not. I don't want to go see this. It just looks stupid, and I don't want to go see it.
Oh, it was so disappointing.
Well, also, the Prometheus had discount Tom Hardy. What's that guy's name?
No, not Michael Fassbender. I mean, they did have him, but
The girl's boyfriend.
Discount Tom Hardy. I don't know who Discount Tom Hardy is, but I'll have to think about that. You look
Could
it
it
up,
have
John.
been Michael J. White?
Sure.
I don't know. That guy, 7399, has a list of 5 that I think is pretty strong. Independence Day 2, Independence Day Resurgence, we call it.
Logan Marshall Green.
Yeah.
That's his name.
I like to call it Independence Day Regurgence. That is Independence Day 2. Son of the
That's an honorable
Mask.
mention.
Son of the Mask, Terminator 3. Oh my gosh, coming off a 2 and 3 was going to be huge.
I didn't mind 3. It's not as good as obviously as the original 2, but
when Schwarzenegger was getting into politics and was running for governor, and
I just kind of like 4 too.
Spider-Man 3 with the Toby series where
I thought about it, but not super disappointing.
It was very disappointing at the time. Made tons of money, very disappointing. And he says Joe Dirt too. Everybody's got to have one of those where they're looking personally forward to something.
I don't mind Joe Dirt, but I had no desire to ever watch the second one.
John, what almost made this list? Is there anything? Because I've got one that I am shocked did not make the list.
So my one MCU movie that I was going to include the whole MCU as a franchise was Thor: The Dark World. That was an honorable mention. X-Men: Dark Phoenix was an honorable mention because Phoenix could be an incredible character. I thought Phoenix, once the Disney Fox sale happened, I thought Phoenix would be incredible next saga, like ultimate villain that they could do something with. But they screwed it up with Dark Phoenix. Independence Day Resurgence was on there. I'm a Vin Diesel guy, so I like Triple X. The Triple X they did with Ice Cube after that was absolutely awful. And then the one I asked you if I could count franchises that is kind of a reboot, but it's still part of the overall franchise. And I was going to throw the Karate Kid they did with Jaden Smith and Jackie Chan in there. I hated that movie. And I'd consider it a sequel because they're actually doing another movie with him and with Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio in it. Bringing the two worlds together, showing us the same universe, so I'll consider it a sequel. Revenge of the Nerds 3 and 4, Cars 2, sorry, Rocky, Back to the Future 3, Aquaman 2, and Quantum of Solace. I did not like Quantum of Solace.
Okay, it's fine for you to say, Tim, I forgot about that one. You're right. This one deserves to be on the list. Okay. Are you ready? We're talking about trilogies right now with Dune Part 2 as we're all awaiting Part 3, and will this become looked at as one of the greatest, if not the greatest, sci-fi trilogy of all time? It'll be a part of the discussion going into Part 3. What could have been one of the best trilogies of all time, especially in science fiction, could have been the latest Matt Reeves Planet of the Apes movies. And War for the Planet of the Apes deserves to be on this list. Because you want to talk about not sticking a landing, John. Me and you both walked out of that movie going, how in the world did they mess up the momentum of this series? And now they're going to try to heal it with Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes this year.
Yes, that's a disappointing sequel. I'm not a big Planet of the Apes person to begin with, though. So it's not like, oh my God, I love Planet of the Apes. I didn't consider it because I don't really think of Planet of the Apes because it's not like Star Wars is a franchise. We all love Star Wars. Everybody loves some part of Star Wars. But then Rise of Skywalker is like, you didn't stick the landing. We don't like it. Fast and Furious, same thing. Like those are franchises I have affinity for. I don't really for Planet of the Apes. I did like the first and second ones, but
second one was great. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes was awesome.
But the War for the Planet of the Apes, the biggest problem with it was just it was false marketing more than anything. That it wasn't the movie you were expecting to go in to see. It doesn't necessarily mean, oh boy, I hate this movie. It's just that's not what I was expecting. That's disappointing, as opposed to the movie's disappointing.
They literally had cutouts when you were walking towards the theater to watch it. Cutouts of apes on horseback and like the army, and they were going to fight, and it's going to be this battle in there and a standoff. You never get that scene in the movie. It never exists. They should have called this Prisoner of the War of the Planet of the Apes or something, because it is.
That's the one where Steve Zahn's a monkey. Like he's the one that's been isolated for like, I love Steve Zahn. He should not have been in that film.
The performances in this movie aren't bad, but they just completely derailed the entire momentum of the franchise. And what was promised to the audience and what you were going to get was an actual war movie, and you didn't. And I will never forgive the ending of that trilogy in what could have been the best trilogy of the past decade by far, and I hope Kingdom gets it right. Yeah. I'm looking forward to Kingdom still.
No Andy Serkis, correct?
No Andy Serkis this time around. New group is going to be coming in and trying to make this happen. So we will see if that is successful. One place where you can be successful, John, that's mybookie.ag.
Yeah, go to mybookie.ag, and hey, the Oscars are coming up in a week. You never know. Might find a few odds there for a few different things. So go to mybookie.ag and make a bunch of plays there. NHL, NBA, college basketball, UFC, a lot of stuff going on there, plus their live casino as well. Mybookie.ag, promo code next round.
And we want to thank our studio sponsor. That is Culver's, a family favorite restaurant known for their local butter burgers, fresh frozen custard, and Wisconsin cheese curds. But whenever you believe that the spice must flow, then think of Culver's. The secret to Culver's spicy buffalo. I said that weird. The secret to Culver's spicy buffalo chicken tenders is in the seasoned breading, a flavorsome blend of chili peppers, paprika, and black pepper spices made with the whole white meat chicken and begging to be dipped in your favorite sauce. Think of Culver's Once again, I barely stuck the landing. I would say Planet of the Apes did not with War for the Planet of the Apes. We'll be back tomorrow, another edition of The Meltdown, starting at 2 o'clock Central. Appreciate all of you being a part of the show.